This from CNBC, ladies and gentlemen, big news. The DOJ is seeking the death penalty for Luigi Mangione in the Brian Thompson murder case. So I think this was expected. Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered the Department of Justice prosecutors to seek the death penalty in the case against Luigi Mangione. Now, the question is, we know it was a cold blood. He was accused. There's two pieces of the story. One, I don't actually believe right now that Mangione is the guy. I still don't. I don't believe that.
You think he's a patsy?
Well, I don't know. We'll get into that. The other question I have, of course, is will leftists venerate him as a martyr, as they're already basically doing, should they pursue this? And the risk is then, in any kind of escalation, this is a story that they would seek quite like to inspire other extremists.
Yeah, they're going to bury him in a gold casket like they did with Floyd. They make martyrs out of these people.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that
bills after him, right?
I don't. Well, yeah, they didn't even build that. That's
in California,
which is.
Can I ask a question for everyone? Because I'm sure everyone. I guess I know people. What their opinions are going to be one or two things. Here's the real good question. And people hate these kind of questions because, like, would you rather have the flu or cancer? Like, it's two bad choices. I'll give you two bad choices. You have to pick one. Who would you regard as more of a hero, Luigi Mangione or George Floyd?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Mangione.
If it's the question,
right?
He didn't hold a pregnant woman hostage.
Well, but we're not talking about the past of what we're talking about the key moment that they were in.
No, we're just talking about
in
which
general?
one of these people would you consider more of a heroic figure?
Yeah, Mangione.
Yeah, because
Now, I must clarify. What we're saying is
No clarification.
no on a scale
Tim
of
Tool endorses Mangione murder.
on a scale of 0, negative 100 to positive 100, where anything in the negative spectrum is villainy and is not heroic. Adding increments to it in any degree is more heroic than the other, then sure, we could put George Floyd at negative 50 and Mangione at negative 49. You know, there's not a big difference between the two, in my opinion. But the question, I suppose, is that Mangione was driven by an ideological pursuit and George Floyd was just a drug user behind the wheel of a car.
Sure.
So it's not so much that it's heroic, it's that his actions were politically motivated. So
I think I'm going to say this.
Actually, I'm going to pause. I take it back. George Floyd.
I'm going to be very tactful.
George Floyd wasn't intending to destroy the world. So if we're basing it on a scale of not the actions you took for ideological reasons, but the amount of good you're doing in the world, Luigi Mangione is much, much lower on the scale than George Floyd was by simply George Floyd being a drug addict.
So here, let's have this debate because it's kind of a fun one. Because I think everyone in this room agrees that Luigi Mangione should be in jail, and this guy's not a good guy. So on. We are all on the same page. That's our context, right? Broadly speaking. But I think I will defend it when kids wear those Che Guevara shirts, because there's the idea of Che Guevara and there's the reality of Che Guevara. Just like for boomers, there's the idea of Reagan and the reality of Reagan, right? I think we all understand that. Totally. The idea of what Luigi Mangione did is very different from the reality because he didn't fix anything. The CEO got replaced in 5 minutes. The company didn't change their policies. No good, even by his own standards, follows the consequence except for a life being taken and people, if anything, having more sympathy for the healthcare companies than before. But the idea that when things get horribly wrong, it falls on people to take direct action, I think that is a very American idea. And I think that idea has something to it, to speak very tactfully.
I mean...
Indeed, I do have to say it, unfortunately, but Michael, nobody can hear what you're saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Okay, what do we do?
Maybe put a little space between it so your voice can be heard.
Is this better?
No, but maybe...
Is this worse?
Cut a hole into the mask?
Yeah,
That's gonna ruin the whole thing.
A box cutter?
It is, and I didn't want to say anything until the last minute, but basically everyone's saying they can't hear what you're saying.
I'm taking it off. I did the bit.
I did the bit.
You can breathe.
Oh my God, the question is
Hey.
from Malice?
It's been Luigi Mangione the whole time.
I had no
Okay,
idea.
that's fine. I did the bit. Let's get back to the point I was just making, though. There is something to be said, and again, we have to be very tactful because I do think it's dangerous when you discuss these things on places with big audiences because if you have 1 million, Tim Ferriss had this great piece. He goes, look, things happen as a function of scale, right? If you think about how 1 in a million people are like literally crazy in the sense like they think they're married to you.
Yep.
If your audience has 1 million people and you say, hey, you should do something, one of those people is gonna do something very, very bad and crazy. Mm-hmm. So my point is, but there is something to be said for this idea of direct action. And John Locke talked about it. Thomas Jefferson talked about it. When things reach a point, at a certain point, it's like someone's like, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to put a stop to this once and for all.
The issue, I suppose, is I don't. So let's go back to the initial point of the debate. When I initially said Luigi, it was under this pretext of a man, as you're describing, driven to do something about what he perceives as a problem, is more heroic than a drug addict. But when I actually map it out on a scale of goodness and heroism, George Floyd wins easily. The act of a guy sitting on a park bench with his finger up his nose is more heroic than Luigi Mangione. You can argue that, I suppose the definition of how you're using heroic is what I would contest. Heroic, in my mind, is for the betterment of society, altruistic.
Oh, I don't think that at all. Sorry.
So by heroic, you just mean someone who's willing to take action
in pursuit of his values.
And are you using just the moment?
But what if his values are to like genocide a group of people?
Well, I mean, it's going to be hard to do it by yourself. I don't think his values are entirely wrong. I think at a certain point when you're dealing with a system that is a very
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I think and again, I'm speaking broadly. I'm not speaking about his specifics. I do not agree with him at all in this case. Mm-hmm. But I think if you look at things with the nursing homes, I'm surprised that no one did something similar. When you have a system and you've tried here's an example that everyone in the audience will be able to understand. If you have a dad, and this dad learns that someone did something to their kid, right? There's been many cases like this, and the dad's like, you know what? The guy got acquitted. I'm not going to go to meet my maker without having to do something about it. Mm-hmm. I think that dad is a heroic figure.
I disagree.
Like the video of the guy who took out the person.
Gary Plauché.
I disagree.
Might have pronounced his last
name.
I disagree because it's not black and white. It's not yes or no. The reason why I'd say Luigi Mangione is not a hero, he's a villain. Because what you're describing is the backstory of villainy, the same as it could be for heroism.
Sure, that's true.
And so the question is what they did.
Don't tell me what the question is. I know what the question is.
Indeed. In this regard, we are wondering, was the outcome of what he did for the betterment of society? I would argue the inverse. He's a villain.
I agree with you. It wasn't for the betterment of society. Because
he's a villain.
By his own standards,
it's a villainy.
Okay, by his own standards, he didn't accomplish what he wanted. Now that I have the master, I can tell more. A husband died. People have more sympathy for the healthcare companies. It's not like his mom got better. Like none of his goals got checked off. Right. That's what I'm saying. Broadly speaking, though, I think there's something admirable where someone is like, not him, in cases where like the law failed me, I'm not just going to sit on my hands.
But you're talking about if we step back from this story, way back.
Yes.
To the point where there was a young man who said, I have been injured and ruined by this failed industry. Right. At that point, and he said, I will stop at nothing to fix this system.
Oh, no, just to destroy the system.
And right.
Sure.
At that point, you have a spark of motivation.
Sure, yes.
Whether he goes down the dark path or the light path is where we determine whether he's heroic or villainous.
Sure, that's fair.
And he went the villainous path.
Yeah. I agree.
So my point is...
But I think George Floyd it's very hard to have anything heroic about him.
Yeah.
My argument would be doing nothing is more heroic than what Luigi Mangione did.
I think...
I'll put it this way.
Okay.
Let me say this. A woman gets her purse snatched.
Sure.
And there's a guy sitting on the bench chewing on a speedball whacked out of his mind.
Speedball? What the fuck?
That's what George Floyd was chewing on.
Oh, okay.
It was meth and fentanyl, I believe.
Is that
combined.
a thing?
Yes. Yeah. It's called a speedball.
Man, I'm old.
So
Did you know about this, Bill?
George Floyd was behind the wheel of a car chewing on a speedball.
Okay.
That's why they pulled him out. This guy's whacked out of his mind. Woman gets her purse stolen. And there's a guy sitting on a bench chewing on a speedball who watches it happen as she runs screaming. Who's more heroic? The guy who stole the purse and ran off, or the guy sitting on the bench doing nothing? Well, the issue is on a scale from villainy to heroism, as you become more villainous, you're dropping lower on that scale away from heroic. The guy sitting on the bench doing nothing is closer to a hero than the villain who stole the purse.
The villain who stole the purse isn't being guided by any sort of a principle.
He needs the money because his daughter's sick and he has to buy Tamiflu.
Well, I mean, that's a very bad way to get money, is some lady's purse.
It's a very bad way to stop the healthcare industry.
Yeah, but I'm sure. But my point is, I think it is... I don't know how to put this tactfully. And again, if people are going to hear that I'm defending him, I'm trying to take out the context of what he did specifically. I think, broadly speaking, America would be better served if more people were, instead of sitting on their hands, were like, this stops with me. And I think if more people did that in their communities, a lot less bullshit would be... a lot less crap would have gotten away with.
But we're not talking about... I'm trying to be very academic here. Developmentally disabled individuals doing random acts of violence that don't actually solve any problems.
Correct.
When I say be an active participant, I'm talking to our fans to literally go to a bar or a pub and sit down with like-minded individuals and organize.
I love it. Like, cannot endorse that more.
So, and I explain it like this. The last thing, you know I'm a fan of? I was talking about how I love these Jason Statham movies where he basically just goes around just beating the crap out of people because they're always him saying, please leave me alone. Like Beekeeper.
Yeah.
He retires, he's minding his own business, and they bring the problem to him. I love John Wick. You know why? He's a crazy, he's Baba Yaga. He's dangerous. But he says,
She's not crazy. You keep her name out of your mouth.
sure. But that's Keanu Reeves' character in John Wick.
Is Baba Yaga?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, the witch.
Yeah, from Russian.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't
And
know.
so they call Keanu Reeves in the movie Baba Yaga.
Oh, that's bizarre. Okay.
Sure. And he's minding his own business. He lost his wife. He has a dog. And they came to him. And then he unleashed hell upon them.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with you.
The idea of the good man who doesn't instigate the conflict.
Yes.
So what I want to see from the American people is, let's go to COVID times, lockdowns.
Right.
If the American...
okay, we're on the same page now. Yep.
All the American people need do is say, ha, 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 when they tried locking him down. And that was the end of it.
Okay, let me take 2 more points. I'm saying, broadly speaking, it's a good thing in any country when people who are powerful are a little scared.
I agree.
Totally agree.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and are a little uncomfortable. I think that's a very healthy. Because you know what, we're scared. You've gotten swatted. Like I'm in Austin now. I sleep with a firearm under my bed. I think it's a good thing that I know that if poop hits the fan, I have to rely on me. I think that's a very healthy for any man in this country. To have that position.
And the point I think you're getting at, what I'm trying to get at is, we are the people sitting at the bar saying, bro, we don't want to fight. Please leave us alone.
Yes. And
what could change everything is if the guy who walks in the bar looking for a fight, how about this? Deadpool. It's always got to be a movie with me. I'm sorry. When the bad guys walk into the bar looking for Wade and they shove that guy up against the wall, everyone in the bar stands up and points guns at the bad guys and they say, okay, and they leave. There's no fight. They understood. Nobody will tolerate what you're doing. If during COVID, they said, we're locking everybody down. If everybody, not even everybody, if 20, 30% just kept doing their normal daily business, nothing would have shut down.
I'm going to take us 2 steps further. There was a video I saw, I think it was Brazil, where someone tried to rob a convenience store and like 5 people drew on him and made it into Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And a fan of mine retweeted, goes, this is the side I want to live in. And I completely agree with that. Because as New York, as Giuliani showed.
I do not.
No, because it's a small percentage of people making 90% of the problem. Once you do that in like 2 weeks, everything is fine, number one. But number 2 is, I'm just going to say another point. One of the things that stopped prohibition, and this is not really, they sweep this on the rug, is enough police were having things done to them. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore. So if that had happened in COVID, if enough cops were like, I'm not sticking my neck out for something I don't believe in, the politicians would be powerless.
And my point is, I don't want to live in a society where a guy robs a grocery store. I understand your point. In the event someone does, you want society to say we don't tolerate this.
That's right.
I think it's possible, and we have to strive for a point where we are men of action, we are armed, we decide those against us, but no one dare do it in the first place.
Sure.
We get beyond that. And so with the police, we don't need Antifa to go around ACABing. What we need is for when a cop who, there was a story that I recorded for today, it's actually going to go up Friday, where they arrested a woman because her 10-year-old son walked to the grocery store. Did you see this story?
Oh, God.
And it was a lady cop, and she showed up and said, you're under arrest because your son was by himself. That woman should never be allowed to buy a cup of coffee. Nobody needs to go to her house. Nobody needs to do anything like that. It should be a function of society that when you violate...
Wait. You agree that the mom should be in trouble?
No, I'm saying the lady cop.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said lady. I think you meant the mom.
Yeah, the lady
cop.
cop.
Yeah, of course. Yes, correct. Yes. Yes. Same page. Sorry.
When she walks in a Dollar
of
General,
course.
they should say, get out.
Yes.
And she's like, but I need groceries. That's
fine. Yeah. You can get it wherever you want, just not here.
Exactly. And so the left is really good at that.
Yes.
They did it with cancel culture.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately, my point is, I really don't like that there are a lot of conservatives that venerate violence as though it is the choice. Like, people say things like, when we did the story on Tesla and the guy pulls in front of the lady and screams at her. And then I hear from people saying, I don't ever get lucky like that. And I'm like, bro, I'm sure there's a lot of combat vets that might have this mentality. Almost all the people I know who have been in life or death situations wished it never happened, where they had to confront someone with violence in that way. We don't want that. I once saw a guy. I know there's people out there who know it way more than I do because
sure, of course.
when I was covering conflict and crisis, I watched a guy get shot and killed.
Oh God.
And the feeling you get watching that happen is terrifying.
You mean because it won't go down?
The
Priapism?
Okay. I've also seen a man get his legs turned into ground beef in a car accident.
Oh my God.
And what I will say to this is, when I was younger, my dad, who was a firefighter and responded to deaths and people dying, explained that there's something about it people don't know unless you see it. Like, it's something that is an EMT,
Right,
a first
that's
responder.
right.
I was driving once and I was directly right at a scene of an accident. Again, I've watched people die in conflict. There was one person I've seen die, got shot in Egypt.
Oh God.
And in driving down the road going from New York to DC, there was a car accident years ago where a guy flew out of the car, landed on the ground, and I saw him lift his legs, and it was what looked like, I'm sorry to be crude or crass, ground chuck. And the feeling that I got, there's no word for. And I think it's because most people in this country have never experienced that feeling of watching extreme graphic injuries right in front of them. But it was a unique emotion that I don't have a word for. And so when people glorify this stuff and make these jokes where they're like, I wish I got lucky. And no, you don't.
It's funny because when people yell at me, oh, you're an anarchist, like you want this, I go, no. I'm an anarchist because this is the thing I want the least. I think when you have a society where it's a given that everyone looks out for each other on the street, you're responsible for your community, and so things like this, you don't have to, and the police, you have security that is accountable and reliable. This happens less and less.
Just on a practical level, like this, the conversation that has kind of revolved around the psychological toll that stuff that takes on a human being when you see those kinds of things. Just on a practical level, even if you're psychologically a tough person, if you engage with someone like that, you're going to have to spend an immense amount of money defending yourself in most states.
That's right.
You're going to have to deal with all kinds of they're going to arrest you. It's going to be a huge problem, and not to minimize what you guys are talking about, the psychological stress at all. But there is no positive that comes from getting into an engagement like that at all.
I saw a body camera video from police.
Oh, I've been watching a lot of those.
And the cops were fired on, and the cop fired back and killed the guy. And the video was of the cop crying.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people understand the feeling you get, and far be it from me to know, but I'm sure, again, there's probably some combat guys out there who are carved out of stone and are just stone-faced in this, but the stories I hear from most people is it's a feeling you don't want. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.